In order to edit this template, the first thing you will need to do is import a logo. Double click inside this area over here, navigate to your logo destination, and simply double click to import your logo file. Then inside your edit folder, you will have a logo holder composition. Double click to access this composition, drop your newly imported logo, delete the previous logo that was there, so just select the layer and press delete. Then make sure that the logo you've imported matches the bounds of this composition, and you can select your layer and press S for scale and then drop this or increase it depending on your logo. Alright, just make sure there that there's some space between the logo and the borders of the composition. But at any rate, you can go back inside your render comp over here. You can access this comp also from your render folder, and you can take a look and see how your logo looks in the final render. Now that your logo was imported, and by the way, if you want to use text, you can simply type any text here, like so, and let's just make sure this is centered. You can maybe increase this. And if you go back, you can take a look. See, it looks really nice. One thing here is that if you make this completely white, you might lose some of the detail from the texturing. Alright, so you can see that more darker colors work a lot better in this case. So that's just something to keep in mind if you want to use text. Alright, let's go back to our logo. Let's take a look. So inside the render composition, you have your main comp that contains all of the layers. You have an SFX layer, which is the soundtracks. So if you want to export the soundtrack, or rather the sound effects, you can either keep this or delete this layer. And then you have a settings layer. And if you click this layer and go to effect controls, and also if you don't have this tab, you can press F3 and this will bring it up. And here you have a few settings that you can mess with. The first one being the logo tint. So you can desaturate your logo from here, and maybe if your logo is very colorful, it might not match within the circumstances of the composition, so you might want to desaturate this rather. So if this goes all the way up to 100, and 100 means complete desaturation, so completely black and white. Usually it might work with something like just a slight desaturation, maybe 25. The next one is logo texture, and this influences how much the texture and the scratches affect your logo. So if you don't want any texture at all, you can set this to 0. Alright, so now we have no texture. This goes all the way up to 100. Alright, so this is 100% texture influence. Maybe something like anything between 50 and 100 I find works really well. Let's see, extrusion brightness. You can either increase the brightness of this extrusion of the logo or decrease it. So if I use a value of 100 here, you can see that now the extrusion is really bright. Let's try a value of 35. So still brighter than the actual logo, but you should probably go with a negative value, so negative 50. This will just make sure that it blends well with the composition. Logo outline, if you deselect or rather uncheck this option, then the outline disappears. You can keep this on by making sure this checkbox is checked. Logo outline width, this will increase the thickness of this outline. So this is from 0 to 100, or actually I think you can even use a higher value, but something like anything between 25 and 75 should be a good value. Now you can see that a value of 50 actually makes this really thick, and if that's something you want to go for, that's fine. Usually I might use something like 25 or 35. Alright, maybe even 25. So maybe I don't want this to be as blown out as it is. Alright, you can change the color then for the outline. And different values here will give you way different results. So maybe I want to saturate this blue more. All right. Gate lights are the lights here where the gate closes. So depending on what you're going for, you might need I figure it's better to have individual control over these lights. Alright, so if I change the color for these, you can see what that does. Let's move forward a few frames. Then we have our regular lights, so the lights surrounding our logo. Change the color for that. And here you should probably experiment with maybe, so if you know what color you're going for, let's say you want to make the composition blue, you should really experiment with making your color maybe less saturated or maybe even darker, and see what kind of different results you can get. Alright, and the explosion is right where the gates closes, and it creates this explosion, and you can also change the color for that. So these are the settings. Once you've done editing everything, you can go to composition, you can go to pre-render. Inside custom AV, you can choose your format, select audio output if you want to export the sound effects as well, give your file a name and a location, hit render, and you're done. So thanks for watching, hope that helped.